Okay. No Wisconsin season of Top Chef would be complete without the state's most famous culinary ingredient, cheese. But at this week's Cheese Fest, Top Chef turned into Top Croquette.
Charlie, what do you got here?
Croquettes.
Croquette.
Croquettes.
Croquettes. We're all making croquettes.
Everybody's making croquette.
Yep.
Hey, Alicia, what are we up to here?
I'm making croquettes.
You sure you have a big enough?
No, everyone
there?
took the wrong dose. That's why I'm making the biggest mess right now. But you gotta work with what you have.
Today, I'm joined by Top Chef All-Star and culinary mad scientist Marcel Vigneron to find out how do you make a croquette stand out. This is the Dish with Kish.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. We've never met before.
So nice to meet you.
Likewise, I've watched many of the early seasons of Top Chef. I think you were pretty much my first introduction to like a lot of the molecular gastronomy. I was like,
Oh, cool.
wow, this dude's really awesome.
I'm best at avant-garde molecular gastronomy. I'd bring something different to the table.
So 7 out of 14 chefs made basically a version of the exact same thing,
dish. Yeah.
which is wild to me.
For me, cheese challenge, I'd be doing mac and cheese. I'd probably do a grilled cheese.
But I
don't know,
also-
queso, you know.
I think that's what the chefs were all scared of. They thought all
Yeah.
the people around them were
We're
gonna
gonna
do
do
the mac and cheese.
and like
Grilled
just
cheese.
sit there trying to go outside of the box,
Yeah.
which is cool.
So how do you make a croquette stand out?
You've actually called in the ringer of croquettes. I have made thousands of croquettes in my lifetime. I actually used to work for Jose Andres.
I'd like to introduce you to Jose Andres,
How are you?
the chef and owner of Minibar in Alea.
And that was one of our #1 sellers. It was his grandmother's recipe, and we just couldn't keep up with the demand. Sometimes we would actually have to make more croquettes in the middle of service, which apparently doesn't actually work.
Right,
They were
I
just
can't imagine.
exploding in the fryer, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like not properly set. And I actually was the brainchild of adding gelatin into our base. So the gelatin kind of allows you to set up the base. So then when you actually, fry the croquette, it turns back into a liquid.
Because gelatin melts at such a low
Such a low temperature, body temperature. Funny thing, if Jose watches this is gonna be the first time he found out about it because we actually never told him that we changed his grandma's recipe.
I think let's get
Let's
cooking,
get to
shall
it.
we?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
First, I thought we'd make a classic croquette, and then, we can do something a little bit more outside the box.
I know
Yeah.
of you for cooking very much
Well,
outside
of the box. Yeah. So the first one's very inside of the box. Classic croquette. We're gonna make a bechamel. I like to do butter. We'll throw some onions in there,
Okay.
and then we'll get our flour. Because why not add flavor to your roux? It's just
milk.
too simple.
Butter. We also have
Yeah.
great Wisconsin cheeses here.
And then some shredded chicken, because
shredded
we will
chicken,
add
okay.
that to our base.
Heavy cream.
And yeah, let's get some
Okay,
out. Let's
sure.
do it.
I remember watching you, and I'm pretty sure I was in culinary school. I need to do the math to figure out how old I was when season 2 was.
Let's not do the math.
Or not.
I don't want to date myself right now.
But you were incredibly memorable because you were really cooking, in my eyes, so far in the future. Where were you learning all of this science?
Yeah, so the internet. I spent a lot of time in my in my garage or whatever, tinkering around with recipes. I did a lot of traveling. Was very fortunate to be able to kind of go overseas and study with chefs around the world and just pick up little tricks of the trade.
You have to understand
Right. Yeah.
everything about science in order to start manipulating food in that way.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw in my chicken over here. And then a little gelatin just to finish the whole process.
Okay.
Should we bloom?
We gotta bloom it, yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you explain the blooming gelatin process?
So back in the day, most commonly people used the powdered gelatin, which we would add cold water to. But really that kind of dilutes your base because you're basically just adding water. And then they invented these beautiful sheets, which is much easier to use.
So you let it soak. It basically softens and turns
we'll
into
get
like
another one in
little,
there.
feels like gel. They go from crunchy to this like nice gelatinous ball, and then you wring out the water, and then you melt the gelatin into your hot or warm liquid.
You can see this has become nice and bloomed now. It's much more, pliable and translucent and shiny. I'm gonna squeeze out any of the excess moisture there. And then just gonna melt this right in there.
Should you get hungry, we have these beautiful cheese plate, Wisconsin cheeses.
I'm gonna fold some of this into our base over here, you know? Because I feel like why not just get inspired by the ingredients? We're foraging.
We're foraging.
Foraging. Gonna give this a little taste.
Okay.
Even though we're swapping it out, it's just that chef-like. Ooh.
You happy with it?
Yeah. A little thyme and the rosemary made it. Chef, do you have any flour in your kitchen?
Yes, we do. I think it's in this cabinet. I don't think it's in that cabinet.
You know, I forget.
I think it's in this cabinet.
You got it.
I
Nailed
found it.
Nailed it. So let's set up a little a standard breading procedure.
Sure.
We'll do the flour, the egg wash, and then the breadcrumbs. So with the cheese challenge, do you think one person was like, I'm gonna do a croquette, and then there was like a little bit of a lack of creativity by some of the other chefs, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna do a croquette too.
I honestly think that they just didn't know.
Just didn't
I
know,
think they all
right?
thought they had an original idea.
And just went with it?
Yeah.
Who else is doing croquettes? Dad.
Was it Dan?
I don't know.
I'm putting cheese curds inside my mashed potatoes.
It's gonna be like a croquette, huh?
Yes.
Are you making quesadillas?
No, I'm making potato croquettes, actually.
You're the third person who's making a croquette.
I've been planning to do a croquette since before we even came here.
And then it just kind of spun
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah, into this croquette fest?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Wow, chef, you came so
that is so
prepared. You
nice.
have all this ready to go. I
Look
love
at that.
So you can see it actually like seizes up quite a bit, so that way we can actually handle it and bread it.
Okay.
We're gonna do standard breading, flour, egg wash, breadcrumb, and then my thought is not back into the flour, just egg wash, breadcrumb.
Okay.
And I think that's another way to kind of like, when you do a double bread, to make it a little bit lighter, is like less flour.
Okay. Happy with that? Wow, that looks lovely. You good
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, I'm good with
Okay.
that.
These look awesome. Sorry, which place?
These?
Yep.
Right? What are we at here? 350?
This is always the game on
Chef's
Top
kiss?
Chef 2. Is the fryer ready?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so it
We're
should
good.
be ready to go for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, should we get them in there?
Yeah.
As it heats up, it's actually gonna re-liquefy. You can already see they're starting to liquefy. A little salt.
All right, so this one's beauty?
Yeah,
Steph!
Coming.
Thank you so much. This is gorgeous. Go walk very slowly.
So we have, you know, a nice,
wow. Look at
oozy,
that.
juicy, you know, inside. I'm gonna go ahead and try it.
Yeah. Oh. These are delish.
Wow. You have that crunch, and then just that oozy, gooey, cheesy, creamy, savory, pulled chicken on the inside.
And you can see the ratio of filling, far more filling than there is crust, which is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this croquette would have done just fine. Yeah. It would have stood out.
Boom.
That's great.
Yeah.
You have another croquette, though.
I do.
Okay.
I do. Maybe a little bit less traditional.
Okay, let's do that one.
Which is a cromeski. A cromeski is basically just using gelatin to set it without the bechamel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to learn.
I just made this recipe up, so
Okay.
we're gonna have fun. We'll get some of these mushies in there. So I was wondering, did any of the chefs have any trouble with the consistency of that cheese? Any of it like curdle or like grainy?
I do remember grainy, I think.
Right.
And I've certainly
Right.
made my fair share
Yeah.
of grainy cheese
Yeah.
sauces.
I too have, you know, fallen victim to a grainy cheese sauce. And, you know, through the science of cooking, learned about sour salt, which is also known as sodium citrate. Basically, what it does to the cheese is it relaxes the protein. The cheese sauce will then become a little bit more heat stable and thermal irreversible. So you could heat it up, you can cool it down, you know, you can bring it to a boil, and it's not going to get gritty or grainy.
We are definitely browning.
Okay, we can deglaze. So while that's boiling away, why don't we do our cheese sauce? Should we do beer or should we do, for the
Beer.
queso? Beer, right?
Beer.
Okay.
We were Wisconsin, beer,
Beer,
cheese.
right? Maybe half in the pot? So you always want to add the sodium citrate before your cheese, because otherwise, if it's not in there, it's not going to take effect. And I think one of the other things, you know, that I think is helpful whenever you're making a cheese sauce, either just pre-cube or even shred your cheese, so that way you just do a couple cubes at a time instead of, you know, dumping the whole shebang in there and then trying to melt it. And we have an unwanted guest in there.
Is that our fly?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
We have a fly.
The fly.
Oh yeah. It's over here now.
Get out the door.
Yeah, maybe just shoot it out the door.
Oh, he's going for the cheese. Or what is that? Oh, I don't know. Something. Might be something else.
Oh, it's my eyelash.
I wasn't gonna say it. I was like, it looks like a wing.
Alyssa!
Gorgeous. Do you want to keep that for good
No,
measure?
thank you. Would you like to bring it back to your friends? Yeah. Alyssa Fall, everyone. Makeup artist to me and the stars.
You look amazing.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
For this, do we need to bloom gelatin?
We will need bloom gelatin. Yes, chef.
Okay. Let's bloom the gelatin. Okay. And then you add it into your hot liquid.
Perfect.
Then from there, you just chill it until it settles.
Yeah, so for this one,
gelatinizes.
in this case, we poured it into a hemisphere mold.
Throw it in. Thanks. Great.
You got it all here.
I know, we really do.
Typically, with any gelatin product, I like to give it at least overnight to set for even 24 hours is better. Oh, it's tomorrow already.
Yes.
Look at that. It's
Perfect. So this is just liquid with gelatin.
Yep, just like with the gelatin. Let's do a triple. Triple bread this time, I think.
Okay.
Breading those ones? Just be looking for there.
Behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can see we sandwiched them.
Oh my God, I love this
Wow.
game.
Yeah.
Woo!
She works.
Trying to be subtle.
Yeah. So can I fry these?
Yes, chef.
Oh my God.
I think we're okay.
I've never had anything like this before, and I'm very excited.
I mean, look at that cheese sauce. Nice and viscous.
It's a nice texture right there.
Right? Everything you want from a queso.
Oh, you want more?
In there? Yeah. Just go for it. Just go for it.
Why don't you
Right?
just go for it? Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
You
Here,
can see we're-
pour it so they can see.
We're still
Whoa.
liquidy on the inside. This is like a classy way to eat, you know, just cheese.
Wow.
Cheesy. The cheese is the star. Cheese.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's delicious.
Okay. So we'll just do like a little,
Whoa.
not your everyday croquette.
Wow. Yeah, you would have won with either dish, but this one is incredibly
A little more
impressive.
unique, right?
Wow, Marcel.
Pretty fun.
Damn.
Woo!
I knew you were the mad scientist guy that I admired for a reason.
I'm glad I didn't fall short.
Oh my God, thank you for being
Thanks,
here.
chef. Yeah, of course. Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
All right, everyone, I'll see you next week with Boudeleau as Top Chef is seeing double.
Cut!
That is really cool,
Cool, right? Yeah.
Damn.